It is finally time to share this book with you. It is finally time to do this book review. I have been so excited. Kiwi's excited too. Yes, that is right. The book that I have actually been talking about randomly here and there and that has prompted me to make some changes in my life is finally being reviewed. I'm so excited. I actually have like 6 pages of notes that I took during the book. I promise I won't be that long-winded. So if you are new here, my name is Mary Fran. This is my place to talk about weight loss, life, fitness, being amazing, living my life to the fullest. And today we are going to do a book review. This book has really made me think about a lot of things. I got it because it just seemed like a book that I needed. In the last year or so, I've noticed that my body is just not moving the way it needs to and it should. Like getting up and off the floor has been difficult. Crouching has been difficult. A lot of things have just become very cumbersome. And I'm like, dude, I'm only 50, 51. This is not cool. So when I saw this book, I was like, okay, this book might be for me. This book is called Built to Move. It is by Kelly and Juliet Starrett. So the premise of this book and the best takeaway is that our current lifestyle, specifically American lifestyle, but a lot more places also, is causing us to lose bodily functions, range of motion, ways of moving, all kinds of things. Our bodies are losing what we were designed to do because we don't use them, because it's one of those old adages, if you don't use it, you're gonna lose it. So this book is actually attacking 10 different places in our lives that we are probably severely lacking. And a lot of these things that we're lacking are not our fault per se. It is the fault of our society. Because society has changed and adapted and grown and gotten better. But by getting better, our bodies are not functioning the way that they are designed to function. So we're losing certain aspects and certain functions of our body. So the authors actually chose 10 different vital signs, is what they call them, to look at. And each chapter actually has a benchmark test. So you can do a little test to see exactly how good you are. And they actually talk about how, these vital signs, you might think you're only working your neck, but what you're doing is you're actually helping your back. You're actually helping this. By fixing this, you're actually helping that, because our bodies are interconnected. So the book is actually just trying to get us back into the area of what our bodies can do, not what our bodies are doing, because there is a difference. I'm just going to go through the 10 vital signs really quick. I'm not going to give you the test. I'm not going to give you that. I'm just going to talk about maybe what struck in my mind. And, please read the book because the book is fabulous. The first one is range of motion. And it talks about how we used to be connected to the ground. We squatted to go to the bathroom. We ate on the ground. We sat on the ground. We lived on the ground. And through modern convenience, we now sit at tables. We now have toilets. We now do this. We don't get down to the ground. And by not getting down to the ground, our bodies are losing the mobility to be able to get to the ground and to get back up. Oh my word, this book hit me right away, because if you remember at the beginning, I actually talked about how I was having a hard time getting up. If I would get down at the bottom of my refrigerator on my hands and knees, and getting back up was like this lumbering mess. And so this one hit me, and I'm like, oh my word. Number 2 is actually not a motion per se. It is to breathe easy. They say a lot of Americans are not breathing properly. We're breathing shallow. We're breathing through our mouths. We're not dogs. We shouldn't be breathing through our mouths. Mouth breathing for us is a backup system, they said. You should be breathing through your nose. And they want you to breathe through your nose. They want you to breathe slow, and they want you to breathe deep. If your chest is not rising, you're probably not getting a deep breath. It aids in so many aspects of the bodily functions that to not do it properly, yes, sure, you've adapted, but do you want to adapt or do you want to thrive? Number 3 was hip extensions. And they talked about how the fact that we are always sitting like this. We can sometimes stand straight up, but how often do you put your leg behind you? How often do you extend that leg? Lunges, huge. If you do lunges, you might actually have good hip extension. Commonly, we all sit, and our bodies are getting used to being in this position. So if we try to go into this position with your legs behind you, we can't do it. We've lost that range of motion. We did it when we were kids, but disuse has made us lose that hip extension. They actually talked about tests that were done with runners, world-class runners, who they ran through some of the mobilizations that they do, and the runners were increasing their running times just from doing these mobilizations, because by making their body function more efficiently the way it's designed to do, it was able to perform better. That's a runner. I'm just trying to walk without falling. Number 4 is one that a lot of you actually are already doing or know about, and it is walking. So, we all know 10,000, 10,000, 10,000. They said the average American takes 5,117 steps. Australians take 9,685. Japanese take 7,168. They did throw out the fact that, is it a coincidence that those two countries have lower obesity rates than Americans? They also talked about steps and how the extra steps can help you. They said compared with somebody that's getting 4,000 steps a day. So they said if you up from 4,000 to 8,000 steps a day, you have a 51% lower risk of dying early. If you up it to 12,000 steps, you lower your risk to 65% lower. That's some massive numbers. I mean, I know it. We all do it. I have a watch. I do it. I still struggle to get my steps because, dude, I have a desk job. A study in 2010 said that if you sit for 6 or more hours, you raise your potential for dying by 37%. Dying early, I should say. And exercise means nothing to that study. The rates were the same for people that exercised and they didn't. Wow. Vital sign number 5 is shoulders and neck. And, this is just talking about it. We don't do it. Our modern cars don't even have backup cams. And I've seen people that don't even look over their shoulder. I was trained that way. So I still use my shoulder and then use my backup cam as backup. A backup cam. But, we're losing even that. And something else that we're doing. We have our phones. This is actually an iPad, but we have our phones and we sit like this. They said for every inch that your head is tilted forward, you are adding 10 pounds of load to your neck. How often do you sit with your phone? If your neck is out of line, yes, your body's going to adjust. But at the risk of what? Number 6 is eating. I knew it. It was going to be there. And they actually push the concept of back to basics. Unprocessed, back to basic foods. They actually talk a lot about the micronutrients and how important they are. And I was just sitting there thinking, okay, I've liked what they're saying the whole way through, but I really just can't bother with micronutrients. I mean, I know they're important, but dude, it's a lot. But they came up with a challenge. It was actually designed by a doctor, and this doctor came up with the concept of 800 grams. Instead of worrying about getting your vitamin C and your this C and your that D and your E's and your S's and your X's and your Z's and your Y's, go ahead and focus on getting 800 grams of fruits and vegetables a day. And her study actually showed that if you're eating 800 grams of fruits and vegetables, you're most likely getting a very good mix and you're most likely going to get what you need. Sure, if you are going to eat 8 bananas, maybe you might not get a really good mix. The average person isn't going to eat 8 bananas. I'm not average, but still, even I would need 8 bananas. You're going to do it like what I did this week while I was eating, and I shared my food. I had strawberries for breakfast. I had a bean salad for lunch with a banana. And then I started to try to up my vegetables, and I would have 2 or 3 vegetables with dinner. And it really wasn't that hard to get 800 grams, and I did measure them. 800 grams is about 6 cups of vegetables or fruit a day. So do you want to hear what the study said about fruits and vegetables? In a study of middle-aged women, which, I don't want to admit it, but I'm a middle-aged woman. Those who ate 1 serving a day, they were 50% more likely to end up with a physical limitation versus those who ate 2 to 4 servings. Wow. These stats are scary. And what's amazing with the book is when you read the book, which I highly recommend reading it, but when you read the book, you're going to find out they're not asking us to do crazy stuff. They're not asking you to never have another orange. They're not asking you to go exercise for 10 hours. They're not asking you to do anything like that. They're just recommending simple things that you can do every day. Vital sign number 7 is squats. Once again, range of motions. Can you squat? Can you stand? Ankles, knees, feet, everything is involved. They said China has an 80 to 90% lower incidence of arthritis of the hips. And what's the major difference? Some would say genetics, which I'm sure plays a part. But the other thing is they use their bodies in different ways. Something else to think about squatting? In cultures where people squat to poop, they have less incidences of digestive disorders such as IBS. Number 8, balance. Balance. I had to cave and start using those walking sticks, which are fabulous. Put a link. And I would highly recommend them. But wouldn't it be better to fix my balance issues and make sure that I don't lose my balance in the first place? And they give you mobilizations and test for it. Number 9 was creating a movement-rich work area. Now, by the time I got to vital sign number 9, I was already pretty much sold on getting a stand-up desk. My husband had been mentioning it for a while. My brother mentioned it. And this book actually talks about creating that environment that is very movement-rich. And not just your desk, but, everything. But they actually did talk about the desk. They talked about different things you can do. They talked about different things to do to make it more palatable. A couple different things, like having a box or a footrest, having a place to lean, to perch on occasion. And then they talked about how when you do go get your stand-up desk, don't just get the stand-up desk and think you're going to stand up for the whole day at first. Build up to it slow because, you do it one day and you make yourself so sore you never do it again. It's not going to be a good thing. So they gave some good pointers for someone that was buying a stand-up desk. Number 10 is sleep. So they just really talk about sleep and, hey, get your sleep. They end the book with a 24-hour challenge, which is basically showing you what they do every day. And a lot of the stuff they do is simple. It's, how that you can intersperse these things throughout the day. It's not any long period of time that you need. And then they also did a 21-day challenge. And their 21-day challenge is assuming that you are starting out, and it helps you take your test each day and helps you figure out how to get this into your life. As an afterword, they did remind us that these are not exercises, but exercise is good. And that if you really want your body to flourish, do the mobilizations, but exercise on top, because the exercise is going to take you higher and further than you would ever imagine. We were working on planting our trees the other day. We were out there and I was planting and I was weeding some stuff and I was on my hands and knees and I was getting to my feet, ungracefully lumbering to my feet. And we look over at our neighbor who is in her 70s. And she's just flitting around her yard and she's leaning over and getting on her hands and knees and popping back up. And I'm sitting here going, she's 75 years old. I'm like in my 50s and I'm doing worse than her. And Jason and I talked about it that night. And the big difference that we can see and that we know is she's never stopped moving her body the way it was intended to move. I stopped. And now I have to dig myself out of a hole. She didn't stop. So she didn't lose her range of motion like I did. This book really opened my eyes to a lot of things. I actually highly recommend this book. There is nothing bad I can say about the book. It was a good read. And it is a book that I'm going to keep close to my heart. And it's a book that I'm going to keep close to me because there's a lot of good information in it that I want to be utilizing because I want my body to function to its highest ability. Not to what my lifestyle says the abilities, but what my body can actually do. No excuses. Oh, and let me know what you think of the book.